Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Lunch with Jim. I'm Jim Connery, the Public Information Coordinator at Stevenson High School. And today we have a special guest. We are with Tony Reibel, who is the Director of Assessment, Research, and Evaluation at Stevenson. Tony, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, as we mentioned, folks, you might have seen the announcement last night. Today on Lunch with Jim, we're going to talk about grading. Grading is obviously a very important part of high school life. And at Stevenson, we have a grading system that maybe is a little bit different than what some schools have, or maybe what some parents are accustomed to. It's called evidence-based reporting, or EBR. And so our goal today in this Lunch with Jim session is to simply talk about EBR and give everybody a little bit of an overview, and hopefully we'll walk away with a better understanding of EBR. Before I dive in, though, let me just point out that Tony is actually a resident of District 125, and he has two young kids who eventually would be coming to Stevenson. So he does have skin in the game, you could say, when it comes to EBR. This is not something where, Tony lives an hour away and isn't impacted by this. In fact, this is very personal for him too. So he definitely has an interest in the things that he's working on here. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. As always, if you'd like to post your questions, you're more than welcome to. I know that last night when we posted a teaser about this episode, some of you submitted questions, and if we have time, we're going to get to those near the end. And if some of you want to submit questions while we're doing this broadcast, feel free to do so. And of course, after the fact, if you are watching this video and you want to submit some questions, we can certainly respond to those as well. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and get rolling here. Let's get started with something real easy, which is basically, what is EBR? At this point, 80% of the classes at Stevenson High School are using EBR. We've been gradually moving toward EBR in all of our classes. So let's talk about what's a brief overview of EBR. How does it work?
Yeah. As Jim said, EBR stands for evidence-based reporting. And it essentially is a grading system where we arrive at a letter grade through student-produced evidence and the interpretation of that evidence instead of a formula, averaging, or points. And that letter grade is arrived at and decided upon based on the level of competence in each of the major competencies in each course. So for example, in our English courses, the major competencies would be reading, writing, listening, speaking. Students produce evidence against those expectations and those big competencies, and then the teacher and the student co-construct a grade from that evidence. And that's essentially how it works.
Okay. So let's kind of talk about EBR versus the grading system that you and I had when we were in school, and the grading system that most of Stevenson parents are accustomed to. How does EBR differ from what we would call traditional grading?
Yeah, traditional grading is, in essence, and I like to use this analogy, it's kind of like a carnival. So you do things, you earn gold coins or golden tickets, you stack those up, you collect them, and then you turn those in for a grade. And that creates kind of a passive learning environment. And that's been well researched and well documented for many years. Where EBR is more like poles and plates, where the kids have to get build their competence and maintain that competence, kind of like spinning a pole on a plate for the entire semester. And if they get all the plates spinning, they're going to earn that A.
So let's kind of dive into some questions that parents often ask you, because I know in your role, you often are asked questions by not only our teachers, but our parents as well. So what are some of the maybe more frequently asked questions about EBR that you encounter?
Yeah, I think the major question is why we're doing it. And the answer to that, at least in our opinion, is that we're looking to create self-reliant learners. Learners that can take themselves to and through their learning after they leave us, which leads to the second most common question, which is colleges don't do this. Why are you doing it? But it's, again, well documented that a key skill and attribute that kids need to be successful in college is self-reliance, and otherwise known as efficacy. So we are trying to build self-reliant learners, which is actually in our portrait of a graduate on our website, so that they can have take themselves to and through those big tests in college, get themselves through those maybe emotional points in college, that they can really truly rely on themselves to hit their goals and beyond college.
Do folks ever ask you about the particulars, like, hey, my kid's taking an EBR class and I'm seeing numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not seeing like 80 or 85. Do you get asked that question, and what's the difference, I guess you could say?
Yeah, so the 4-3-2-1 basically indicates the level of competence that the kid is showing on that particular event. So it's different than traditional grading, which would give you an 80% for the entire test. We're actually, the teachers are interpreting the student's level of competence in each event in the week or unit or month or semester. So the parents are typically, or like I was used to seeing points in there and percentages. What you're going to see in the grade book is the numbers 4-3-2-1, and that indicates the level of competence at a given time for that overarching skill in that course.
Okay. And one of the hallmarks of EBR is that there's the opportunity for students to, and correct me if I'm stating this wrongly, but my understanding is that if you have an early misstep in a class, like you don't understand something, there's an assessment, and you don't do well, it's not, you're not sunk, right, for the entire semester. You get a chance to redeem yourself, so to speak. And I think that's one of the good things it sounds like about EBR.
Yeah, in traditional grading, actually, it's very hard to dig yourself out of a low grade. I think the example, if I got 3 100s in a row and followed by 3 0%, it would take 27 more 100s for me to earn a 90%. So that's actually not happening in evidence-based reporting. So if you do have an early misstep, or you have a moment where you're not competent or just something slipped up, you do have the opportunity to do what we call reperform. So teachers build those into their assessment process. So you do have a chance to reperform if your initial competence isn't what it